All right, everybody. So you all have seen a ton of absurd media reactions. We highlighted some of them on the TV show last night. We talked about some of them tonight, including politicians. And an organization that does a bang-up job of evaluating and kind of amalgamating all of these reactions is Media Research Center. And tonight we have their president, David Bozell. David, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, John. How you guys doing?
Good.
Good. All right. So who gets the award for the grade A dope of the last 24 hours?
Well, certainly Matthew Dowd. Now, I'll give him some credit. He did apologize for when he suggested that hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which often lead to hateful actions. He did apologize. And MSNBC also apologized on his behalf. Turns out it was too late. They fired him about an hour later after issuing those two tweets. But if I had to channel my inner Charlie Kirk, I think we should probably forgive Matthew Dowd for saying such silly, stupid, irreverent things in the moment. Yeah. The one that I really can't forgive is Catherine Turf, also from MSNBC, suggesting that President Trump could possibly use this as a political weapon. While Charlie Kirk was fighting for his life. Yep. The job of a breaking news anchor is to just sit here and take in your earpiece. I mean, and both of you have done this. When you're in the moment in a breaking news situation, get the information from your producer, and if necessary, kick it back to someone in the field in the know, and that's it. In a breaking news situation, somehow Catherine Turr's instincts suggested that she should opine to her audience. Maybe President Trump might use this to his possible political advantage. I think that's a fireable offense. So I'd give that to the dope award to Catherine Turr. Alrighty. And then taking the cake this morning, Nate Burleson, he woke up on the wrong side of the bed at CBS, suggesting to the former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, that it was time for the Republican Party to reflect on its violent rhetoric, insinuating that somehow the Republican Party got Charlie Kirk shot and killed. So it goes on and on. MSNBC today blamed Trump's immigration enforcement for stretching FBI's resources as if the border caused Charlie's murder. Nicole Wallace basically blamed democracy itself, suggesting that the vote in the 2024 election and President Trump's win made it harder for the government to track domestic threats. I mean, she just twisted herself in knots in this. So it is starting to feel, last night's coverage was pretty good. I'd say 9 out of every 10 things that were opined on the networks and on the cables were really respectful of Charlie and his family, even though they were essentially mortal political enemies, the liberal media and Charlie Kirk. But as you've woken up today, the liberal media has started to get back into some awful bad habits.
You and I have been around a long time, David, and we saw in some of the greatest moments of strife in major news events, some of the greatest journalism exhibited by anchors, whether it was Walter Cronkite or Peter Jennings. But it seems today that the biggest news events brings out some of the worst journalism in America, because journalists feel like their opinion's more important than the facts are supposed to just neutrally arbitrate and deliver. How did journalism lose that mission, that their job is just not to put their spin on the facts, but to just give people the facts?
Yeah, let's add 9/11. This is the celebration of 9/11. I'm old enough to remember all of these anchors broadcasting live in the moment while a plane was in the air en route to Washington, D.C.
That's right.
Not knowing where it was going to land.
That's right.
And then it crashes into the Pentagon. That took some stones, particularly for the White House correspondents in the field that day. I think Britt Hume was a White House correspondent in the field that day, broadcasting live from the grounds, not knowing if a plane was going to land on his head. So how did we go from this? Gosh, look, this has been the liberal media have been fairly nasty for the past 30 to 40 years. But boy, since Trump came down the escalator, it has been Katie bar the door with these guys. And essentially, look, this is the logical manifestation. Charlie Kirk's death, his assassination, is the sort of the logical manifestation of 8, 9, 10 years of night after night after night going on the airways and calling your political enemies, us, conservatives, Hitler, fascists, and worse. Night after night, show after show, hour after hour. It doesn't matter. Network, cable, it doesn't matter. South Park, same thing.
Yes.
I kind of am curious how the South Park guys feel today after the stunt that they pulled a month ago. I know Charlie took it in jest because he had to. What else was he going to do?
Yeah.
But these are the types of things that fuel maniac desires, and these things can be the result.
Yeah.
And I tell you guys, taking my Media Research Center hat off for 1 second, I think the only thing that stops them, the only response, the only Christian American response, is to defeat them at the ballot box in totality, crush them. In every election, from the presidency coming up in 2028 to the midterms in 2026, to every down ballot state, gubernatorial, congressional, school board, every single election, if you supported Charlie Kirk and his values, get ready to put in the effort to throttle these guys at the ballot box. I think that's the only proper Christian American response at this point.
Yeah.
But David, how do we break that current between the media, the people who say these types of things, and however many millions of listeners and viewers they have? How do we create a separation between the two so that there's not that exposure to this radical ideology?
Yeah, their television ratings are kind of in the toilet right now. From 2020 to 2024, the election night audience, CNN lost 50% of its election night audience in just 4 years. The numbers, anyone can look at the ratings numbers, they're all kind of in the toilet now. Where they've been able to sort of survive and kind of thrive is that the Googles and the Apples and the Yahoos and the Microsofts, the MSNs of the world, all take ABC, NBC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post, and aggregate them in their front pages, link after link after link after link. And these are the biggest aggregators, the biggest news communication tools that man has created. And so while their television ratings have really sunk like a stone, they've been able to wedge themselves into these massive tech apparatuses. We've got to get into the Googles and the Apples and divest from them these exclusivity contracts that these guys have with essentially I call them the upper class media, the mainstream legacy media outlets. You might get a Fox, you might get a Real America's Voice wedged into 9 different liberal media links, but until that becomes more of a 50-50 proposition, we're going to be fighting this uphill battle against these guys.
Oh.
The job of the Media Research Center, in addition to reputational destruction, is to ensure that these guys end up screaming into an empty room one of these days. And so right now they're at about 30 to 32% believability. That's still too much. Now that's gone down, since the 70s and 80s. It's gone way down. I mean, there was a 1987. They had like a 78% approval rating, according to Gallup. So that's gone super down, and we're very excited about that. But still, 3 out of every 10 people believe everything that NBC, CBS, and ABC say. So we've got to continue to get those numbers down, get the believability rate down, and make sure that the aggregators, these popular aggregators that we all sort of rely on these days via our phones, start giving folks like Real America's Voice and other conservative ecosystems bigger representation.
Yeah, well, you guys are doing an incredible job of helping with that effort. David Bozell, president of Media Research Center, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks so much, guys.